Everybody can hear me okay? Yeah. So let me start by saying I brought you the most important gift. That's that cheesy little pencil holder. And I'm going to tell you why. Because in this nation, every emergency responder, police officers, firemen, ambulance drivers, paramedics are taught to look at your refrigerator for any emergency medical orders. So when we talk about doing all these forms, living wills, the Colorado Most form, we'll get into that, durable medical, they need to go in, a copy of them need to be in this, and little magnet attach this to your refrigerator. That way if something happens to you while you're at home and they come in, they know to look at your refrigerator for this. So I've got a bunch of them back there on that back table in the corner. I only brought 40 of them, so if I run out, let me know and I'll get some more. But this little bag right here is the most important gift you'll get today. Mainly because I'm a cheapskate. I'm not spending money on you guys. Yeah, that's everywhere in the nation. So everybody does that. Now again, my name is David Nelson. I'm employed by Southwest Center for Independence, and you can forget all about the other hats that I wear. I am essentially a healthcare provider. This slideshow presentation we put together back in 2017, this was not meant for you all. This was meant for nurses and doctors and other service providers, but this is the kind of stuff that you need to know. This does not need to be a secret. When we first did this, I did this in partnership with Centura Health. And when we talked to the doctors and nurses, especially the ones that work in the emergency room, what we were looking for is the most common scenario for somebody to enter the emergency room in a life-threatening situation. And let me just say, this is not an old person thing. I joined the United States Marine Corps when I was 17, and one of my first official acts was to do a last will and testament. I cannot tell you how many young men and women that we've lost. And I mean recently. We had one that was just killed in an auto accident not too long ago. This is an everybody thing. This is not an old person thing. Yeah, it's called the law of probabilities. Common case scenario. You all know this. Grandpa doesn't walk too good, falls down, he breaks his hip. Happens all the time. But Grandpa develops pneumonia and advanced respiratory distress. This is as bad as it gets. Aunt Lucia from California calls up, stop everything, do not pull the plug on that man. I want you to do everything you can to save his life. This is where things get complicated. In modern medicine, we have the ability to keep you alive even if you're brain dead. That kind of scares me. I don't know about the rest of you, but it scares me. There's Aunt Lucille. Grandpa ends up in a persistent vegetated state. Again, you can be brain dead and we can keep you alive for years and years and years. Persistent vegetative state. Due to an injury of the upper brain, sparing the brain stem, characterized by the return of sleep-wake cycles and the various reflex activities. But wakefulness is without awareness. You have no thoughts. You don't know what's going on. You look like you're awake. Your eyes are open. Sometimes fingers twitch. Sometimes they blink. They're not there. Again, can live for years on tube feedings. And this just happened recently with one of my veterans. Vietnam veteran who passed away recently. Informed consent. Now we get into the nitty-gritty of things, all right? Prior to being treated, the patient will receive a description of the treatment to include its risks, benefits, and alternatives, and the patient will agree to accept the treatment. This is where having somebody be your power of attorney for you kind of kick in. Okay? We talked about people with dementia, people with autism, Parkinson's. Believe it or not, if you have any of those, you're not allowed to make your own medical decisions. So they will go to your power of attorney. This requires decisional.
Who makes those decisions if you haven't appointed anybody? Medical doctors? Or next to kin?
No. That's a good question. I don't want to put you off, but we will go into this because this is why we do advanced medical directives, because that's the scariest thing, is if you cannot speak for yourself, who speaks for you? And if there isn't anybody to speak for you, how do we get our express wishes for what we want done out? Okay? I don't want to,
No, that's fine.
we're going to get into that. But that does require decisional capability. In the state of Colorado, if you can blink, if you can squeeze my fingers when I ask you a question, you have the ability to make your own medical decisions. It's only when you're completely out, comatose. All right? So if somebody says, do you want us to save you? And I go like that, that's a definite yes. But if I can't do that, they don't know what I want. Patient has decisional capacity to consent or refuse the treatment when the patient has the ability to comprehend information relevant to the treatment being offered. Do you want us to do the paddle thing and get your heart going again? No. The ability to deliberate in accordance with his or her values. You've all heard that stuff before. I don't get a tattoo because I want to be buried in a Jewish cemetery. The ability to communicate with caregivers. The podium's in the way here. It's also important to let your caregivers know what you want, even if they don't have power of attorney. Advance directive definition. Advance directive means the expression of treatment preferences, guidelines, or instructions regarding medical treatment made by an individual, or for an individual by that individual's authorized agent in advance of the need for such treatment. Again, I am not an attorney. I just do with the paperwork. This is what we need to do medical treatment for you by your express wishes. Living will. I am not an attorney. Again, we have an attorney here somewhere. We're going to talk a little bit about living wills. I do not do these, all right, but I've got stuff in here that we would like to see in your living will. You can write one on a notepad. You don't have to have an official form. They do prefer that it be notarized, but you can do that from a notebook. Medical durable power of attorney, MDPOA. CPR directive. We'll talk about this more in depth in a little bit, but I have patients right now who have end-stage renal failure. CPR and the paddles are really only effective if somebody is in ventricular defibrillation, VTAC, their heart's fluttering. Somebody like my dear friend from the Veterans Center next door, if you see him fall down in Walmart, he's not dying of a heart attack. He's dying of renal failure. His organs are liquefying. CPR is just going to make his last few moments on earth miserable. That's what a DNR is about. Medical orders and scope of treatment. Colorado Most Form. I've had a lot of questions about this, and we will get into it. A living will is a written statement made when a patient, declarant, has decisional capacity which gives directions for the withholding or withdrawing of certain life-sustaining procedures when the patient has a terminal condition or PVS and has lost decisional capacity. I don't know about any of you all. We all have the ability to make our own decisions. If something life-threatening happens to me, just let me go. Keep me comfortable, give me enough time so my family can come see me and say goodbye, but I don't want all the other stuff. Terminal condition, Colorado law definition. Terminal condition means that an incurable or irreversible condition for which the administration of life-sustaining procedures will serve only to prolong the dying process. This goes back to what I said, modern science is scary. They can keep you alive a lot longer than you probably want to be. Living will must have 2 witnesses. We just talked about that. 2 physicians must certify terminal condition, or PBS. May include instructions for care following certification of terminal illness, PBS. End-stage renal failure, stage 4 cancer, liver failure, all those things. Those are in that category. May include a list of persons to be notified that the certification, as well as a list of persons with whom health care providers must discuss the declarant's condition and care. We don't know how to care for them if we don't know what's going on. And then we want to know, worst case, we want to know what your bad days are like. You know, we're good with your good days. We know what to do with your good days. Let's go party. But when we want to know what your bad days are like. Advance Directive for Medical Surgical Treatment Living Will. You do not have to do this verbatim, and this is not going to be in any forms that I have to give you, but we like to see these things in the living will. I, your name, am at least 18 years old and able to make and communicate my own decisions. It is my direction that the following instructions be followed, and if I am diagnosed by 2 qualifying doctors to be terminal condition or a persistent vegetative state. Terminal condition, again, we're going back to life-saving procedures. Here, under number 1, I direct that all my life-sustaining procedures shall be withdrawn or withheld, not to include any procedure, including necessary by my healthcare provider, or provide comfort to relieve pain. This goes back to, we'll get more into this in Colorado most form. Basically, it's saying, don't do anything. Underneath that, I direct that life-saving procedures shall be continued for or until such time frame of goal. This goes back to, I'm afraid to die. I don't care what it takes. Chop off my head and put it in that nitrogen, and somebody will put me in a robot in 100 years. This is another tricky one. This comes up an awful lot, artificial nutrition and hydration. I have a 32-year-old young man that was in a motorcycle accident not too many years ago. It happened right out here at Mancus where the light is. He was coming to join the highway and got hit by a pickup truck. He got hit so hard, and he was doing everything right. He had motorcycle leathers and a helmet. He hit the pavement so hard, the top of his brain sheared from the bottom half of his brain. Now, his name is not Randy, but I'm going to use Randy as an example. Whatever happened to Randy stopped being Randy at that point. He was in a persistent vegetative state. But again, the family got into a big fight over, do we pull the plug or do we not? That was almost 10 years ago now. He's in a nursing home in Arizona on an artificial feeding tube. Randy is never getting better, but they keep him alive because of this. So I want you all to remember that story about Randy, and is that what you want to do? I mean, who knows? Another 20 years, maybe they can fix him, but right now, no.
Can we have time limits? Say, for 2 weeks, then?
No. Okay. There is a way to state your wishes that if my condition gets progressively worse, and this is what we're talking about, I go from being happy and carefree and talking to my family to a persistent vegetative state, then I want my medical orders to change. So if you get word to the point where there's no point in keep going, let's stop what we're doing and just let me go. Okay? Please indicate below if you have attached to this form any other instructions. That's the Colorado most form. Durable medical of attorney. This is not a living will. Where's our attorney? He can help you guys with that.
He's not scheduled to speak yet.
Okay. There's quite a few documents that we'd like to see. The Colorado most form. If you're a veteran, I have a veteran advance directives. The durable medical attorney, power of attorney. Resolution of medical power of attorney. My agent, yada, 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 yada. I have initial medical power of attorney. Underneath there, it's my direction stated. I do not. My directions cannot be overridden or revoked by my agent. And before I go on a little bit, again, this is for nurses and doctors, social workers, but when you're talking about making decisions for yourself, you really have to be careful who you appoint your medical power of attorney. You guys want to be on the same page. This is what I want, and I want you to do what I want, not what you want. And this little line in here is, I appointed this person my durable medical power of attorney, but you look at my express wishes, not theirs. Consultations with other persons. This is simple form about who you can tell, who you can't tell about my medical condition. Notification of other persons before withholding or withdrawing life-sustaining procedures. I mean, I don't want my granddaughters to know I'm about to die. That's not something 13-year-olds need to know. Anatomical gifts. This is a problem, especially in western Colorado. Do you want to donate your organs? Do you not want to donate your organs? I've actually had a lot of experience with this recently. A couple of my veterans wanted to donate their bodies to science. It turns out, if you do that, Ertel, they're in the back, can transport your body to Boulder, to the University of Colorado, if they want you. But it's all done at your expense. So they were hoping to get a free funeral out of this, but it didn't work that way. I don't know, you might have more experience with organ donation here at the hospital. I know that at Mercy it was eyes that were collected most often, but I don't know how often that happens. I know everybody goes, I want to be able to save other lives, but this is really...
It's very limited here in Cortez what you can donate. You do have to be at the hospital at the time of donation, and a lot of things cannot be, organs and things generally cannot be harvested because we don't have the facilities locally to do that. If you were in Denver or someplace like that, it would happen.
Yes?
Tom and I knew we had good advance notice that he was dying.
Mm-hmm.
And there is an outfit that a friend of mine talked to me about called Science Care.
Mm-hmm.
Science Care is not a organ donation organization per se. They are a corporation that will take what they need, whatever is marketable, and they will return ashes within a few weeks of their finishing with the remains. They are up in the Denver area, and they took care of transport from Mancos to their funeral homes in Grand Junction, and they treated Tom with great respect. He had a dementia, and his type of dementia was not well studied, and we contacted Harvard Brain Bank to make a specific donation, and Science Care was willing to work with them on it, but he was disqualified at the last moment for that brain donation to Harvard.
Because of dementia?
You know, dementia was what it was they were going to study. So I don't really understand. They did not say what the reason was, but Science Care took very good care of him. The trick is you have to register in advance, and your registration has to be refreshed every year.
Yeah.
But there were no expenses whatsoever.
Well, it's good to know. That's good to know. Because most of the time, this is a no. It's rare that it happens. Medical durable power of attorney. Again, we talked about that. Make sure that whoever you choose to be your power of attorney is doing it for you. I have a son who I don't want him making any decisions. I'll be out here walking into my truck in the parking lot, and he's going to be screaming, "Pull the plug!" A written statement made when a patient has decisional capacity, which appoints specific surrogates, decision makers. Anybody can be your power of attorney. It doesn't have to be a family member. It could be a close friend. It could be a total stranger. Not limited to terminal or PVS, persistent vegetative state. I know I use a lot of acronyms. Social workers love acronyms. We can have entire conversations with just initials, and we understand what we're saying to each other. Takes effect at time of signature or when the patient loses decision ability. And again, that's when you're in a coma or they've knocked you out for surgery. Anytime that you can't make your own decisions, that's when the medical durable power of attorney actually comes into play. It does not legally take effect unless you're until you're unable to answer for yourself. Witness is recommended but not required. Again, here's a sample. I do not give out this form. I only say that because I'm not an attorney, so I'm not really technically allowed to do living wills. But this is what one looks like. You can download these online. They're just a standard form. Look up Colorado Durable Medical. When an agent's power begins, again, it is not immediately upon my signature, but when my physician or other qualified medical professionals determine that I am unable to make decisions for myself. That's why I said I don't do this, because of this first line here. A lot of people mistake that, thinking that, oh, I gave my daughter medical durable so she can make all my decisions for me. Well, that's not true. Instructions to an agent, here's where you write down everything you want. So when I die, I want you to bury me in my pickup truck, and all my cool stuff goes in the bed, so it goes in the ground with me. Proxy decision makers for medical treatment. Used to be established a surrogate decision maker when there was no medical durable power of attorney or guardian. Believe it or not, sometimes that ends up being me for my veterans when there isn't any family member. I had a veteran at Mercy a couple years back, almost like Grandpa. He broke his hip, ARDS, was brain dead for 3 weeks, and nobody knew what to do with him because there wasn't anybody to make that decision. He would have died alone, except I called the VFW, and I got a bunch of us fellow veterans to be there when they pulled the plug on him. Nobody needs to die alone. Physicians must declare that the patient has lost decisional capacity. My gentleman, he was officially brain dead. There was no electrical signals coming from his brain, but they could keep his heart beating. Physician or representatives, contacts, interested persons. Almost anybody can be a proxy. That's a really tough call. I mean, making that decision to pull the plug on somebody is a little harsh, and if you haven't done it before, I don't suggest you do. Interested persons choose proxy. Colorado Designated Beneficiary Act allows for 2 adult over 18 persons to be designated as each other's beneficiaries under a number of items and instruments related to health care, medical emergencies, incapacity, death, and administration of estates. This has to do with your spouse mostly. We had this conversation when we were doing the options for long-term care, options for home health care a while back, by the way. A lot of people don't want to deal with that Medicaid Reimbursement Act that comes with getting a HCBS waiver to get home health care. But when we're talking about estates, again, where our lawyer is when they come in, ask them about that. There's a workaround. You can put them on your deed now so your estate never comes into escrow, so Medicaid doesn't ever touch it. The 2 adults cannot be married to each other or anyone else in the party other than by DB agreement. That has all changed. CPR directive, we talked about this. A written order signed by a patient with the decisional capacity, his and her position instructing pre-hospital, emergency personnel, and other providers to withhold CPR. Must be signified by wearing a necklace or bracelet. This is untrue in the state of Colorado. We don't require the medical alert things. There's instructions on how to get them in here, but they're not necessarily going to look for them. Out of hospital CPR outcomes. Remember what I said about my guys with end-stage renal failure? Up until 2021, I don't have new numbers. We've been shut down for 3 years. COVID, right? Resuscitation from out of hospital sudden cardiac arrest, SCA, is successful in only 1/3 of the attempts in patients. That's actually a very high number. Only about 10% of all patients are ultimately discharged from the hospital, many of whom are neurologically impaired. Up to date, 11/06/2021. The outcome of patients who experience SCA in the hospital is poor. 49% of patients had return of spontaneous circulation. That means their heart goes back to beating the way it's supposed to without a pacemaker. 6 to 15% overall survival to a hospital discharge. That's a low number. Remember, we're not talking about BTAC. We're talking about all the other health things that happen to people. Nursing home CPR outcomes. The last numbers I have is from 1997. I don't know how much they've changed over the time. The action and destiny or futility, 182 nursing home patients received CPR. From 89 to 93, none survived. Up to date, 2/15/15. Other studies reported that only 1% of individuals arrested in a nursing home survived to be discharged from the acute hospital. So again, there's agent's directive to withhold CPR. We'll have more of this in the most form. I suggest that's the one you concentrate, Colorado most form, unless you're a veteran, and then you come see me. So I'm going to skip this part. CPR directive legislative changes back in 2010. This is for us, medical service providers. Now we get into one that you're all curious about, the one you all come to hear. Colorado Most Form, a document that consolidates and summarizes patient preferences for key life-saving treatments. This is the important one. We wake up, especially you over there, stop playing with the pencils. Persons may refuse treatment, request full treatment, or specify limitations, and we will get into that. It is primarily intended to be used by the chronically or seriously ill person. That's not true. This is anybody in frequent contact with healthcare providers or already residing in nursing homes. I believe everybody on the planet should have one. Translate patient preferences into physician's orders. Travels with the patient. Only the Colorado Most Form is really only in the state of Colorado. If you're a veteran, I have a veteran advance directives that follows you anywhere in the nation. Prompts patients and providers to regularly review, confirm, or update choices based on changing conditions. Defines care options beyond the CPR directive. Allows NPs and PAs to sign these orders. Nurse practitioners, physician's assistant. That's an acronym we all know. All copies are valid. It includes immunity clause for allowing the orders, meaning that nobody's going to get sued for doing what you want them to do. Most orders, CPR, yes or no? We already talked about what that means, right? Medical intervention, transfer, full treatment, selective treatment, comfort-focused treatment. Artificially administered nutrition, hydration, long-term. Are you in a coma? Do you need to be fed through a tube? Is that what you want? So here it is. Colorado Most Form. Compulsory resuscitation CPR. Yes or no? That's all they ask. Do you want it? Do you not want it? Full medical treatment. I'm afraid of dying. I don't care what it takes. You saved my life. Selective treatment. Okay, I know I'm dying, but you know, keep me comfortable. Give me some time to say goodbye to my family, then let me go. I know, I saw. She's letting me know I'm running out of time. Comfort-based treatment is just, you know, shoot me up with some morphine so I don't feel pain and let me go. That's as simple as it gets, right? Artificially administered nutrition. We already talked about that. It scares me. I don't know about the rest of you, but here's all the ins or outs. Completion of the most form is not mandatory. You don't have to do this. But since you're all here, this is the one to do. And we've got people here to help you fill this out today. Discuss your advance directives. We've all said this. Talk with those people who are close to you. Let them know what you want. This is not some secret. Again, 17, I'm doing my last living will and testament. I was talking to my sergeant. What do I put here? I've never done one of these before. Follow your advance directive. We're going to talk about this right now. When you do a Colorado most form, you do a durable medical. Copies of those need to go to your hospital, your doctor, and on the refrigerator. Remember the cheesy gift I bought? All of those people have to have copies of this, because if it's me that comes to pick you up in the ambulance, I'm probably going to go, that refrigerator is too far away. I'm just going to put him in the bus and go. I was telling the guys earlier, when we first did this, again for medical professionals, I added a section about aid in dying. We do not do that on the Western Slope. Last I heard, they did that in Pueblo. Over 4 years, there was only 500 and some assisted, you know, the working machine, they hook you up, give you the drugs. You pass away in your sleep. We don't do that. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. This is the end of again, the opt-out for assistance within the life for healthcare professionals. Okay. So before she yells at me.
Still got 7 minutes. Do you want some questions?
Well, that's the end of my slideshow. So, but
Is your slideshow available?
if you want a copy, I will give you one. Just send me an email.
Can we get the most forms here today?
I don't know if they've got some.
Back table.
Yep, on the community resource table, there's most forms and emergency contact times.
Yeah.
Is MRMC
That all has to do with the assisted death thing.
No, but I mean, what's that acronym? MRMC, is that Mercy Regional Medical Center?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Remember, when I told you that when I did this originally, this was in
Acronym.
this was in coordination with Centura Health and Mercy.
Oh, thank you.
So
You did.
I don't work for them anymore. They don't pay my bills, so I should have taken all that out. But Mary, hang on a second.
Carry a POA with me, but I'm a Jehovah's Witness, so
Yeah.
all of us carry that in our wallets. And but I wrote something in when COVID hit because I had put that I didn't want to be put on a ventilator. The chances were that I wasn't going to survive.
Right.
But then I added it in. If you think I'm going to survive, put me on a ventilator.
Yeah. Remember, you can amend these at any time. It's not forever.
So and the same with the nutrition, if they think that you're going to survive it, then you can write it in. And another instance, I don't know if this really applies here because this happened in California. My mom had chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and she had opted out of being on a ventilator. But at the end of her life, she was literally suffocated to death. every 10 minutes they had to do a treatment. It was terrible. So she told me she wanted to be put on a bench, and I called the doctor, and they wouldn't listen to me. She had to say it, and the last word she said was, and she was a nurse like myself, and she said, "I want to be intubated." So she was.
Yeah.
And then slowly we gave her morphine and took her off the bed. She was asleep when we did that. It still took 3 days for her to
Sounds like
die,
ARDS. Yeah.
but I'll never forget that she had to say, "I want to be intubated," just
Right.
like that. So there are situations where you have to think about, okay, what is the outcome? And if I had gotten COVID, thank God I haven't gotten it, and I would want to be put on the ventilator, even though I'm 73, but I'm not crazy yet.
Yeah, I know. I'm the same way.
So if I'm brain dead, that's another thing. But if there's a chance that I could survive it, then put me on the ventilator. So think about that when you do your most form. That there could be situations. So the person that you have as your healthcare provider should know all of this. And
Oh, yeah.
even though we live here in Cortez, I have all my documents like that on file at the hospital and at Mercy, because I tell all my friends, if I get really sick, put me in a flatbed and get me to Mercy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you and me both. Hang on.
Yeah, so I did some volunteer work in Africa, and I need to be writing my last will and testament because that was in 2019.
Yeah, they have an attorney going to be here later today.
Yeah, but what I was wondering is now I live in Colorado. Does this apply to other states if I move to another state?
If you have an attorney assist you with it, and it's all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted, it doesn't matter what state you belong to, but it will be taken into consideration. What state did you come from? Utah. So when they do that final deposition, it's going to be done out of Utah, not Colorado.
Well, that's where I was born, but
You can change it to here. It's not that hard. I mean, you can do everything. You can copy everything line by line from your will as it is now, and just change Utah to Colorado, and then register it here.
Yeah, maybe that was addressing my question. Some of these forms are only good as long as you're in the state of Colorado?
So this is the, it even says there on it. Let me go see if I can go back.
That's okay.
It says on the form, Colorado most form. I just killed it. It says on the thing, Colorado most form. So technically, this is for the state of Colorado. I'm only licensed to work in the state of Colorado, so I can't tell you if this is valid in New Mexico or in Utah. I imagine they would take it very seriously if you showed it to them, because Advance Directives is universal. For my veterans, though, I have a different form that is nationwide, and it gets uploaded in a national database, so no matter where you are, it's there.
So a good idea to have one if you're traveling in another state that can be presented to them.
Yeah. Are you a veteran or not? No. So I would take it with you. It's just hanging there on a refrigerator next to the kids' pictures.
You can do it with your card.
Yeah.
Registration.
Yes, sir.
Is it possible to have it online with a QR code in your wallet?
Okay, so they make an application that goes on your phone now. So if you're down, you crashed your motorcycle on Main Street and the paramedics get there, they can, without having to have your password, they can see your medical. Is anybody familiar with that? Can you take a picture of Advance Directives? I've never played with the application, but they make stuff like that. So the answer is maybe.
Probably.
But as far as uploading that in your Facebook page, I wouldn't do that. Okay. Yeah, please.
I was just going to mention that, like the Jehovah's Witness, keeping these documents, having them with you, or making sure that your friends have them, in your car as well, and, you know, if something happens there. Hospitals and physicians, in my experience, are very good at losing these documents
Right.
when you need them.
You're, another,
So it's good to have your close people who are gonna
Right.
be with you in the hospital or whatever that situation is.
right.
To have this information as well, so they know, and they can show it to the medical people that are working with you.
If-
This is what I was given, this is what she wanted.
If you're awake and verbal. I will, again, I'm going to point out, the rescue squad, unless you're completely unconscious. Can I do the one? Can I do the one? Very quickly. I swear I'll make this quick. Emergency medical response people will not look in your glove box. They will not look in your wallet unless you're unconscious and they're trying to figure out who you are. So they may never see those. If you can tell them that they're there, that's another thing. But the way they're trained, refrigerator door. All right, anybody want this one?
All right.